ultimate blockchain must be built on a rock-solid foundation. There's no questioning that. And one that allows for constant innovation too, while taking zero shortcuts. And that is exactly what MultiversX has built too. So I'm going to dive into much of it with core developer Robert Sasu. We're going to discuss everything from MultiversX's near limitless scalability, their industry-leading security, groundbreaking sovereign chains, and so much more. This is one you definitely don't want to miss. Thanks for joining me today, Robert. We've got a lot to talk about, so much going on in the MultiversX ecosystem with all these upgrades and everything. So really excited to dive into it.
Hello, thanks for having me. I think every week there is a lot of going on MultiversX, especially on development sides. So it's always good to discuss about these things and see what's new out there.
Always, yeah. Just the update yesterday was pretty large. And like you said, every single week there's so much going on. So it's great to see. So let's kind of start right at the beginning and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into development and with MultiversX, formerly Elrond.
Yeah, I was always the type of guy who wanted to do programming from my early ages, like 6 or 7 years old. I always knew I will be a programmer. I started to work in my first year of the university, did 3 internships at Google, went after that to work on a graphics engine for a plane simulator and an airport simulator, then went to work with a company on artificial intelligence and self-driving cars. I had 24 innovations patents there on AI especially. Then, as that was a corporation, and I did not like how corporations work because they are, you are just a small thing there, and you cannot really change a lot of things. I came into contact with Lucian and Benjamin and started to speak with them, and I got, let's say, I thought that okay, this is the first time like blockchain can really work out because of resolving the scalability issues. Then I get into the developing around in 2018, and I am here since then.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the part about kind of solving the trilemma and seeing the future and seeing how the current limitations were there and how something needed to solve it. So very cool. And like you said, here you are with MultiversX. So if you could give us a quick rundown of the USP of MultiversX and what it's out to do that maybe these other chains that you initially encountered are unable to.
I met Bitcoin back in 2012, I think. I actually did a few presentations on it, especially on the payment side and how it is going to revolutionize payments. But I did not get into developing anything on Bitcoin because it was slow, it was not scalable. Me, whom I was coming from the graphics side, where everything had to be optimized for every bit of the piece, and coming with new algorithms and new ways to make it faster and better, it was just nonsense why this kind of slowness is there. Initially, yeah, I mean, in 2010, that kind of algorithm, it made sense. But after that, you have to come and implement the new things and make it as good as possible. And the thing is that neither the new chains after that, even in the ICO boom of 2017, nobody was up for scaling. They just copy pasted some methods and try to do something, but it was either too centralized or it was not scaling. And you need to do, let's say, to go down the engineering way and resolve the hard problems. So that's what we did with MultiversX, and we were the first to launch and resolve the blockchain trilemma, being decentralized, secure, and scalable at the first time. So I would say this is a big USP, And I think that even right now, we are among the few chains who keep this kind of reality live. You can verify all what's happening on the blockchain at home on your laptop, and this is one of the primitive we have to keep with all the other primitives of the blockchain, because otherwise, if we start to delete some of those primitives and properties of the decentralized blockchain world from because we take shortcuts, then it's better off we go back and build on top of SQL or databases.
Yeah, exactly. And it does seem like so many shortcuts have been taken in the past few years by all these various chains that, like you said, they either go more towards a centralized route with high-end hardware, or there's the unwillingness to solve the real hard problem, which is the sharding problem. And we've even seen founders come out and say that it's a hard problem and they don't want to tackle it.
Sharding is a really hard computer science problem. And I think it's solvable, but that's what it is. I don't think we would be near the finish line if we tried to build a sharded chain.
So it's great to see MultiversX take that approach and truly build something that's scalable long into the future. And it is one of the only ones that's capable of that, which is great to see. And you guys just had a huge launch in the past week with Sovereign Chains. And this is a massive breakthrough in interoperability, composability, scalability, everything. So let's talk a little bit about that. You just had the demo, I believe, 3 or 4 days ago from this. And there was a live community demo, and it's very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. It was a long time coming, and we had developed it like since we actually started developing it last year, and it got clearer and clearer the way we want to go. We had a lot of research, we had a lot of architectural design, we had a lot of work around every bit of piece and how to make it customizable, more modularizable, make it easy for developers to make their custom logic on that. We have actually like 4 teams who've been working on sovereign chains, I think as early as January, and they are adding their own custom logic on top of the existing ecosystem. And then we are going back and forth and resolving problems. I think the demo was really good. We managed to go to 75,000 TPS, and after one day, I think
I'd say that's pretty
the
good on
community have
one
pushed
charge.
a little bit more and 77,000 TPS. And launching your own chain, which is interconnected with a major L1, which is around as is this time, but in the next period, we will, with the grants and everything, there will be open source modules for native operations towards other ecosystems as well. So you will be able to launch your own chain with a few clicks and a few copy paste of comments from a documentation. I think it's magical, and also it is really scalable. So, and you can run a lot, you can execute a lot. We make everything to be proper by the books from the start, and I am happy to be part of this thing, and I want to see more and more builders joining and creating something amazing from this.
Awesome. Yeah, it was definitely a very impressive demo. Like you said, it hit 75,000 TPS, later 77,000 with the community pushing it even more. And probably one of the coolest parts was how it was the entire chain spun up in a few minutes with just a few commands by Lucian. And so simple. And it's very similar to other options in the Web3 space, but more interoperable, more composable, much more obviously easy to set up. And the barrier to entry is even a lot lower. So yeah, that was the impressive part, watching it spun up live on the demo right there, seeing how easy it was. And I know it was kind of funny how I think Benjamin commented that it took you guys 4 years to build this architecture, and then in 5 minutes you're able to replicate it. It was funny, but also heartbreaking at the same time, because you guys have built such a strong foundation. And that's part of the sharding architecture and everything else that we're going to go into in a little bit as well. So tell me a little bit about the options and the possibilities that these chains, these sovereign chains, can bring.
So MultiversX had a lot of innovations in the last 6 years. We have actually resolved most of the problems with wallet drains. So there are 99% of the wallet drains are resolved in case of MultiversX. And we did it by learning. So we did it by seeing what people and users are actually doing and what kind of mistakes are they making, and we want to resolve all those problems in a permissionless, decentralized manner. So we brought into the Guardian system pretty lately on, but after seeing that the community support guys were having wallet drains issues, not wallet drains, but private key leaking issues like every day. Even after all the messages were out that do not leak your private key, do not leak your private key, do not leak your private key. And then we had to do something, and we actually did. It took a few months to build it and push it and resolve all the issues, but we launched it. And I think that this is something completely different than how we think about the foundation and the protocol versus how other chains are thinking about it, because they are outsourcing to others. I'm speaking here especially about like Ethereum or Bitcoin or Solana or things like this. They don't really want to acknowledge. They acknowledge this problem, but I don't know, they have a blocker why they can't really resolve it at the protocol level. Okay. And then we already saw how important is native assets as well in the whole equation, how it makes every user much safer, wallets much safer, all the interactions with the wallets to be understandable, readable, explainable to the user, and you will see that how much tokens are you actually sending to a contract and what are you executing. And all those can be brought into other ecosystems. And if we look, let's say, especially around, let's name the three we've spoken about, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, we can actually bring WASM execution on top of those chains. From my perspective, WASM is a wonderful execution environment for blockchain. The code is readable in some way, but it's more readable than others. You can develop using any kind of other language which we want. If we want blockchain to be the basis of everything, then we shouldn't force developers into one language or to other, but to offer them the possibilities of the multitudes of execution. WASM makes it happen. WASM can be used for microservices and frontends as well, making it more decentralized, running your own frontend at the user level, not in a centralized server somewhere. This could resolve all the issue US has on accessing X or Y websites with VPN or not VPN. They could just take the WASM, execute it locally, run it on their device. It's compatible with every mobile phone. Apple is actually using it a lot, and Google, Microsoft, all the others, and they invested a lot on WASM and making WASM better. And we made the space VM like the fastest VM in the space. You can run actually as many transactions or executions, operations as you would run on Sui or Solana, but on a machine which is like 100 times less expensive. Because of how WASM is built and because how we use WASM inside the space VM. Then you can bring this kind of execution environment to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and make it possible to build with WASM on top of existing liquidity and existing applications from Ethereum. You could do that. And actually, reading about, especially Vitalik's last post, it says that it's in the vision of Ethereum to have multiple execution environments. So it's good to bring new VMs into the game. and into the space. So you would be able to do that as well. People don't really think about like the cost of running that infrastructure and what it means. And some solutions require you to pay over $5,000 per month only on infrastructure. And then you would be able to do on sovereign chains with $50 per month on Amazon. But you could actually buy a $500 machine and run it on your basement, and it's much cheaper. After 1 year, your costs are back. And you are actually executing much faster, and you are more decentralized, and all this. I think this is really, really important. And furthermore, when you think about having integrated interoperability at the validator level on the sovereign chains, you as the sovereign chain, you don't have to think about all those integrations of bridges and depending on third-party bridges to do actual job for your users. You can still integrate those because the integration exists in MultiversX, the integration exists on Ethereum. Then you can get all those modules and be integrated with those bridges as well. But from a user perspective, you can create a unified user interface for every kind of operation between, let's say, sovereign chain, Bitcoin, and MultiversX, or Ethereum, or all the combinations possible. One wallet to rule them all and one wallet to use everywhere. So actually moving from how Web3 looks right now, where you have to bridge and then go to another wallet and execute something and go bridge back and all these kinds of things, which I would not be able to explain to my mom and dad. My mom is working with computers since before I was born. Since 86, she's working with computers, and I couldn't explain to her these kinds of operations you would do in the crypto space. So how would we explain these kind of things for billions of people? No, it's not possible. You have to create a unified user interface where they can just explore and enjoy Web3. And I think starting from sovereign chains, you will be able to do that as well. And about those three infrastructures, it's not like one set of developers will launch one and then the other, and that's three and all the possibilities are up. No, you can launch thousands of sovereign chains, hundreds of sovereign chains. Not you, but every developer, because they have to keep up and they have to build their own use cases. But it makes sense for every big application which has more than 50,000 of users. It makes sense for them to create their own chain and then to be interoperable with the others, because they can optimize the chain for their specific application. Being it a game, being it an online casino, being it whatever. And when you optimize for that, then it will benefit your product a lot. And while still you are interoperable with others, you benefit from the liquidity and the users from all kinds of ecosystems. And when we speak about Bitcoin or Ethereum, it is about acceleration, because looking in the space on the L2 side, there is no such number of transactions processed in any L2 on Ethereum or in any L2 on Bitcoin. So you would create the first truly super high throughput chain on top of those and actually be really aligned to what that ecosystem and the users from there wants, building from the basics of it. And everybody can benefit from it. More users come into it. And users will come into it when you will have not only this kind of basics of the chain, but actual great applications. So in terms of, for example, DeFi, you could create a lot of abstraction on top of existing DeFi on Ethereum, where you have the most liquidity, better, easier user interfaces, without wallet drains, easy actions, automatized actions for you to auto claim rewards, to compound your rewards, to do complex lending and borrowing actions without actually needing to use MetaMask or stuff like that. That's one of the case. Or building games where you connect to multiple chains ecosystems, and then I am winning in one chain, I can on the gaming chain I can sell it in different NFT marketplaces. Why not?
Yep.
This is another possibility, and then we can go on and on and on of special use cases.
Yeah, that part, kind of what you were describing there with the almost the chain abstraction part, seems to be one of the key things and a big focal point of what's going on right now and even into the future, really removing the blockchain part of it and making it easier for the user, kind of like you were mentioning your parents. And it reminds me of a experience I had on another chain where I wanted to play a game, and in order to play the game I had to bridge funds to the side chain, and then in order to play they required a certain token, so I had to then swap. And there was like a 3 or 4 step and the side chain also used a different wallet, so I had to switch wallets as well. So that's obviously not the ideal experience for mass adoption. It needs to be much more simple, and it sounds like that's what MultiversX is trying to do with everything, what you guys have accomplished even with your protocol token and the cross shard transactions and everything else. Let's go back to the examples you were talking about with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Let's look at Ethereum. And I believe there's currently an EVM compatible sovereign chain in the works. And let's talk about the possibilities of that and how that's going to work. I've even heard that Uniswap is looking to, at some point, make their own chain, because currently there's, I think, 12 different implementations of Uniswap across all these L2s, which is kind of a mess because you have all this liquidity spread out. So how would it work if, say, Uniswap wanted to take advantage of sovereign chains and build there instead of creating their own chain?
I think we have to first go back that why there is the same Uniswap or different versions of Uniswap deployed all over the place. Because from my perspective, like, L2s are not so aligned with Ethereum as Vitalik is saying out there.
Yep.
Because if you would be aligned, you would not have the same contracts deployed everywhere, and you would not have this kind of liquidity fragmentation, but you would try to create applications on top of the existing liquidity, which is not existing right now, especially because L2s are not enshrined in Ethereum yet. If there would be some kind of help in order for L2s to be enshrined and to have way to simply do, let's say, cross-chain transactions, then it would be another thing. But it's not happening right now, so we have this kind of liquidity everywhere. There are a couple of ways to do. One is to be super interconnected with all your liquidity pools developed left and right, and then try to manage bridge and swap on the best price possible if the bridge doesn't cost you a lot. I don't see it really happening right now. These kind of cross-chain DEX aggregators, they do something, but they don't really have such a big marketplace out there. I don't know what the plan for Uniswap in this sense are, but if you would want more people to swap on your existing liquidity, you would be able to, I'm thinking loud out here, you would have the sovereign chain running, maybe developing the contract in Wasm because they are much faster. Then all the all the executions would be like intents, and then you aggregate together all the intents, and at every block you make complex swaps on the Ethereum chain. So every block on the Ethereum chain, you make complex swaps there. You push your transactions, and for those transactions which were not good, which were not executed, then people with the intents would pay for the validators and for the whole system the fees. Here it means about a lot of, let's say, acceleration in terms of how many swaps you can process and how you can put these kind of swaps together into one big pile, which you will execute in the end on Ethereum. This is, let's say, thinking about loud how it works. And the fun thing about it, why it's different from other intent-based executions where you would have, let's say, an intent pool and not on a blockchain, but it's you send somewhere in the in a pool, is that because of sovereign chains, you would have MEV protection. So all these intents would be, let's say, random in a randomized order, which protect against most of the problems. Then you would have all these intents would be saved onto a chain, actual chain. And because it's saved onto a chain, the leaders, validators of the sovereign chain would be forced to execute those transactions, otherwise they would be slashed. So you resolve the censorship resistance problem as well. And this way you can create a better UX, user interface on top of Uniswap, while preserving the permissionless, censorship resistant, decentralized aspects of the crypto space. This is how I think.
Yeah. And a lot of those have been kind of major talking points lately, such as MEV. And some of the space still won't admit that it's, I think, as you say, a bug and not a feature. And it is. And I think a lot of the Web3 community isn't aware that, in a way, that it's outright theft. You're going to do a swap and you're swapping 100 USD for, even if it's just to do stable coins, 100 USDT, and you only get 99 back. And you just chalk it up to transaction fees or whatever, not realizing that 80 cents of that was actually MEV and the 20 cents was transaction fee. So it's like your bank giving you less money every time you go for a withdrawal, and people don't really put two and two together that MEV it's theft, and it happens on a lot of these chains over and over, almost every time you use them. So it's kind of crazy, and it's great to MultiversX sounds like can bring those to the other execution environments to protect people from that kind of things, and also transaction reordering and all that as well. So let's kind of dive into the sharding aspect and how all this is possible, the composability, cross shard transactions, and the scalability aspect. Because again, like you mentioned, the throughput and what's possible on these is far beyond what's possible on any L2 right now. Even the top ones, Optimism, Arbitrum, none of them are even close to 77,000 TPS. I think maybe 5 to 10,000 max is what I've seen them, their specs.
The 77 was done without sharding, actually. So sovereign chains do not have sharding at the moment.
Yeah, so that's just one sovereign chain.
That's just one chain which does all the job of the meta chain of the shard chain into one and has all the processes. It's all about the hardcore engineering of how a transaction is actually processed, what are the steps to do it, and how the consensus looks like, where every step on the way is optimized to the max, still not to the maximum. So we still find places where we can get few milliseconds out here and there, and that's make the difference.
Just yesterday, you talked about researching sub-second finality. So that's even beyond what you guys have mentioned in the past.
Yeah. new things open up, and we are discussing about those and possibilities of having after learning a lot about consensus. And then when we aim to have one shard which executes more than 100,000 transactions per second, so and we see a clear way of how to do it, we have to not necessarily refactor, but to add some more abstraction layers between some components, between the Patricia Merkle tree and an actual execution. We have to add the new data structure there to make the execution much faster. Not the execution, but the storage loads and the storage writes to be faster. That's one thing we have to still optimize, and then we have to optimize how the commit block looks in order to make that completely parallel, to do it completely on a separate thread without actually getting it involved into the processing of the chain. And those two will bring some massive improvements. And this is sovereign chains are like without sharding. But we have learned a lot from the sharding and how to think about cross shard execution was primordial in order to resolve sharding as it should be, and it was primordial for this native cross chain component. So sharding is a very well-known system from Web 2 ecosystem. That's how you in general you scale databases in the Web 2 space, or you scale execution. You just shard execution, networking, and storage into multiple buckets, and every bucket is working for himself. Then in case of Web 2 and complex applications, you have an aggregation as well. And at the final moment after the aggregation, you have the results. But the idea is that in a well-built abstracted system, the developer doesn't have to know about sharding at all. He just builds the binaries, and then everything is abstracted away from him. And the same is from the user. So you don't see whether Netflix is sharded or not sharded, or Facebook or WhatsApp, whether it's sharded or not sharded.
Yeah.
You don't have to see whether me and you on the Telegram are in the same shard by address or not. I just can send funds, or whenever I go to play a game, I don't go and play a game on Facebook, but
With
when
all
you
your
go
free
and
time,
play,
right?
when I don't necessarily play games, I have some chess only. Okay, the example of chess, when you go and play a game on chess.com, I don't have to move myself to a shard where you are to play chess. We are just playing chess. And then these are the primitives of sharding. If this is not capped, then it's, from my perspective, I would say it's not sharding. That's why it was so strange, the Ethereum L2 proposal back in 2018, 2019. We had some talk about this with Vitalik. Recently, he responded to some of my tweets. And then for me, it was because he posted an image that sharding and L2s are the same things. I would say not, because sharding means that you have a big system which you shard, but you don't, as the user, you don't have to know about the shards. As a developer, you don't have to know about the shards. The actual system, because the system is sharded, it helps the processes to coordinate. And that's an important thing.
There's two things that I'd like to touch on there too. Is one of the questions that seems to come up frequently is, how is composability kept in a sharded ecosystem? A lot of people say that when you shard, you're not able to keep composability and it breaks it. So let's kind of dive into how MultiversX allows that to happen.
In general, people think about composability and they cannot resolve composability. They think about Solidity contracts, EVM, they think about ERCs. And they think about tokens, ERC tokens, smart contract-based assets, which are actually a third-party deposit box, which deposit box you cannot, let's say, you cannot split in half. Because otherwise, different kind of deposit box should be, let's say, should have synchronization events, or they have to resolve the cross communication. And that was one of the ways in which E 2.0 wanted to resolve the problems in order to push the problems towards to the smart contract developers and the token developers to have their smart contracts and tokens on every shard, or do it with yanking, which means that when you would have a cross-chain communication between two smart contracts, from the sender to the destination, you would yank or actually copy-paste the database of the smart contract, execute something on the destination on that smart contract, and then copy-paste it back. But since this happens, then you would have to stop all the transactions on that shard for that contract. This is like wrong. You have to think about other types of communication methods, and the communication method or the execution method to not rely on copying the whole database, or to rely on moving the essential data from one shard to another. And that's why we came up with not only this, but we were, let's say, forced to come up with the native assets, the ESDTs, because we wanted to have seamless cross-chain operations. We didn't want all the tokens to be on shard 1 and everything to be on shard 1. Because assets actually can have a lot of information, and they are the smallest essential operation which has to move from one chain to other. So when I want to execute a swap, in case of ERC tokens and Uniswap execution, how it is taught, the Uniswap contract has access, not necessarily has access, but because of how the deposit contract is used, the ERC20 contract, Uniswap actually, the whole storage is used by Uniswap, because they have to make an internal storage update on the contract from the user to the Uniswap, then a swap, then the swap happens on Uniswap, and then on the other token, the resulting token, you need a transfer from Uniswap to the user. And because these both transfers of tokens happen on the ERC20 contracts, and they can have complex internal mechanisms, it somewhat needs the whole state, which is, from my perspective, it's something wrong. And then when you think about native assets only have the limited data structure of how much you want to execute and where and why. And then these pieces of data, they can travel on a transaction structure. So they can be owned by the transaction. And in case of sharding, how it goes, when you make a cross-shard transfer and execute, where you can have multiple transfers and multiple executions as well, you first execute the transfer on the sender shard. And in this case, you just subtract from the balances of the user all the user wanted to transfer out. And then the transaction is actually the owner. The transaction arrives to cross-chain, to the second shard, and there it gets added as balance to the destination, and the execution happens. In case of any execution failure, the process is reverted and the user gets back his tokens. So from the perspective of the user, it is atomically composable, because either I transfer and execute and I get a good result, or I get back my tokens. That you have to wait a little bit longer, that's true. With some new updates announced on X day, this kind of waiting for longer, it will be reduced to 3-4 seconds. And that's then it will be much seamless. And then all this mechanism is done in such a way that the controller, the MetaChain, doesn't have to see every transaction, but he sees only a hash of all the transactions, so one hash of all the transactions from one shard to another. And then he notarizes this, and he actually obliged the validators to do the cross-shard destination. We call it cross-shard destination meet transactions. And that's how the process happens. I do see that with ERC tokens, it's much harder to do sharding and composability. But thinking about this, you make it composable. And then you have to get out from the thinking of solidity, and you need to add new opcodes in order to do sharded, cross-shard communication between contracts, the asynchronous calls we call them, which is relatively similar to how Web 2 works, actually. Web 2 between front-ends and microservices in general works with async and await methods. So me, from the front end, I send an async message, a synchronous message to the microservice resolves it, and sends me back on an await function. And then I get it, and then I can show it out for the user. That's how it works between two shards as well.
And another thing that I've heard about development and not the complexities, but I know this has gotten a lot more simple recently from talking to some developers. And I think you guys have something called Async v3 that you're also working on that's supposed to completely abstract this for developers, correct? As you had previously mentioned, that developers have to sometimes think about this, not the callbacks, but I forget what you called it, when if the second part of a transaction fails, it reverts the entire thing. So that's something developers currently have to think about.
No, on the revert, they don't have to think about it at all.
Oh no, okay.
They have to think about on how execution happens in the async mode. One interesting example is, for example, Near, who has all the execution mode there is asynchronous. So they didn't even make the synchronous execution modes as we did to help developers who wants to work in a synchronous way. They have only asynchronous ways. Even right now, you can do a lot of things with Async v1 and Async v2. And with the new spacecraft SDK upgrades, it became much easier to create the asyncs and to create the callbacks and to have compiler verifications for everything out there. And so you will know at compilation time whether you define well your asynchronous calls and your callbacks. With proxies and everything and a lot of development there, I think we are making the best developer experience out there, not only user experience. We are using a lot from Rust possible and a lot of knowledge from others, and then bringing all the goodies that developers have in the Web2 space to the Web3 world to have the seamless experiences. Asynchronous v3 will come with a new update where right now developers, they can launch multiple asynchronous calls, but they cannot launch asynchronous calls on multiple levels because there is a difference of how things are treated, cross-shard versus intra-shard. And we wanted to make seamless in this sense. So that's
when you say that, you mean multiple calling 2 or 3 shards at a time, or what do you mean by that?
No, multiple levels. A parent calling a child and a child calling asynchronously a grandchild. Depending on whether you are intra-shard or cross-shard, the order of the execution is different, and we wanted to resolve always to have the same type of order. that's what's in the works, and that's what will become with asynchronous v3. Plus asynchronous v3 will gather all the information of all the execution down the line on the tree of the execution, and then you, from every level on every contract, whatever you had under you, you will have access to all the outputs to make better and more complex decisions. But even right now, you can, technically speaking, you can have complex multi-level asynchronous calls as well, but it's with a little bit trick between synchronous and asynchronous execution and smart contracts. But that is like really, really deep down the level.
And it's great to hear that the developer experience is kind of top of mind, because it's something we see a lot in the space about making things easier for developers. And that's also how we're going to kind of lead towards mass adoption, getting a lot of these developers in that are currently in the Web 2 space. I read recently there's, I think, 27 million developers in the Web 2 space using Rust, Java, C++, all the basic, most popular languages, and only something like 15 to 18,000 Solidity developers in Web 3. So we still have a long ways to go till we hit that point where people are coming in, and the simpler it is for them, or the most congruent and familiar it is for them, is going to make it easier for them to come in and start using these systems, which is great. And it sounds like that's what's going to be coming with, or what is already there even, and what's coming even more with Async v3.
Yeah, I think the flippening will happen faster in terms of number of developers on, let's say, Rust versus number of developers on Solidity. That I think it will happen like early next year. And especially when right now reading Vitalik's post that he likes to have multiple execution environments. So I think that Space VM added as an execution environment into the L2 space will be great. Let's see how many sovereign chains will be launched like this. I will try to help all the builders in this sense with ideas, with possible ways to resolve problems, with whatever they want and whatever help they need, and with grants as well. So it will actually depend on them. From my perspective, that right now when you have like a good infrastructure like MultiversX or sovereign chains, you can actually focus on customer facing apps, which should be the way to go. Right now, the space is so focused on infrastructure. I'm speaking infrastructure about like here L1s, L2s, L3s, L4s, whatever, bridges, interoperability. You cannot sell this to any user. User wants an application and use it. And the best applications, I believe, can happen on MultiversX or sovereign chains because of all the innovative features which have been into it. You have all the necessary features from the Web 2 space usable in Web 3, like subscriptions, relayers, paymasters, everything integrated. And then you can do complex user operations and user integrations with the features which are already there. Like exactly today, I have posted on Agora like a new page about like account abstraction for simple mobile apps as well. And that's one other thing, is that you could create real account abstraction contracts with multiple ways of verifying the signature of the user, execute it fast, execute it by relayers, have complex financial ecosystems there. And from a user perspective, it would be only download this app and start using it. He doesn't need to know about like seed phrase. He doesn't need to know much about tokens. He just buys dollar, top ups his account abstraction, his application, or he pays a subscription for that application and then just uses. he might earn something or not. And it's all seamless from him. For him, he doesn't even know in which kind of chain he might be. Maybe these kind of deep integrations of the native cross-chain operations, it will be doable and possible.
So how does that work? Because I did see that, and you mentioned passkeys kind of replacing, or not replacing seed phrase necessarily, but how would these passkeys work exactly and still provide the high level of security?
So the passkeys are on your phone, and then we introduced a new opcode where passkeys can be verified on chain on a smart contract level. So you as a user would launch your own smart contract or be part of a smart contract where there are thousands of users, doesn't matter. Then all your user operations you want to do, you sign directly with your phone. Then you have the relayers which take up this kind of transaction and they post it on chain. They are the ones who will pay on EGLD, but they get from the subscription or other payment methods defined for this kind of account abstraction. And you as a user, you just from your phone, as you have like your Revolut or whatever, let's say Revolut operations where you have to sign with you actually sign with your passkeys in case of Revolut, because at every time your Face ID is checked or your thumbs are checked. That's what's happening in the background. And then you would sign messages, intents, or operations you want to execute, and that gets executed. And it would work for any kind of Web3 game or Web 2.5 game. It would work for complex finances, for DeFi, for lending, for borrowing.
Hmm.
And it depends on what people want to get from this. These kinds of things has to be seen as the basis, and then developers to come with the consumer-facing applications and applicabilities of this. Which there is a lot of this.
Are these passkeys, are they static, like the serial number of your phone, or is it something that updates like an authentication key and changes frequently?
I think it depends on how it is resolved by every operator out there. I think they are quite static for iPhone. Even if you change your phone, these kind of passkeys they pass on. You can actually change them, but it's an user operation through which you have to change them. But they are in some phones they are kept in like hardware enclaves internally to be super secure. I think even in case of iPhone they do that.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy and seamless to use it. But this kind of account abstraction can go in such a way that for, let's say, sending tokens out from my account to another account or to non-whitelisted smart contracts or anything like that, then I would need a multi-signature of this and that and that to make it super secure in this way. So a lot of complexities can be added in this regard in order for users to feel safe and to be actually safe.
Okay. So is this kind of the functionality that xAlias uses in order to create a wallet with Google, for example?
No. xAlias is doing like you create a wallet and that wallet is saved under your Google Cloud, and that every time you log in, you get access. The xAlias knows from where to read the private key because you log in with your Google, then he knows where on the Google Cloud is the private key, and then from there you sign the transactions. So you actually own, and your private keys are in a format kept under your Google Cloud, which only xAlias can open. You can open, but only the code of xAlias opens.
Yeah. Okay. And then so back to these passkeys, when an account is created using one of these, can it be, or will it be attached to, could it be attached to your primary account? Like if I have a main wallet that's already funded, will it automatically link in a way?
To the account abstraction?
So if I'm going to a dApp that's using them and I create this smart contract wallet with a passkey using my phone, is that wallet the same wallet as my primary wallet that's already on my phone?
No, it's a new one.
It is. Okay. Is there a way
Yeah.
to link those so I don't have to transfer funds or no?
No, you will not. You will have to transfer funds. That's one of the security things you don't want to do. I will not at any time allow anybody to implement. Not like we will not implement approved functions.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's what we kind of talked about briefly earlier. One of the biggest downfalls of the ERC protocol tokens, because we see over $2 million in hacks on a daily basis. Just 2 days ago, 6.91 million from a permit signature. So it's a major issue that many seem to keep brushing under the rug and just ignoring, unfortunately. But at some point, it's going to come to a head, I think. And it seems, in my opinion, native assets are inevitable for where things are going. That was Passkeys, and this is kind of all around the general topic of chain abstraction. And this is the big one I really wanted to get to, because I think this is the key thing that is really going to help drive adoption and making everything seamless for the user. And MultiversX, you guys have the HeroTags, which basically replaces your long public key. It's a nickname. And you have xAlias, which I had mentioned, Passkeys, and all these functionalities that allow everything to happen behind the scenes without the user needing to know about them. It seems like all of these pieces fit together to work perfectly to really allow for this chain abstraction. And I think currently the HeroTag is attached to, 8 different chains or account addresses. Is that correct?
Actually it's done in such a way that every account on MultiversX and on sovereign chains are smart accounts as well. So meaning that you have your own address space for this, and then under your own address space, according to some kind of standards, you could write multiple public keys there. So you have your account, you save your DB crypto HeroTag, and under the HeroTag you will say, okay, under the key BTC address, here is my address. Under ETH address, this is my address. Solana address, this is the address. Then the wallet will know, because of the standard, and he knows how to read this information. He will note, okay, when you want to make cross-chain transactions between your own addresses, he will look and read from what have you signed and built in. What have you saved for yourself under your HeroTag, and then the same can go. For example, one of your friends wants to send you Ethereum. The wallet looks for the Ethereum address under the DB crypto space, and he will see it. This is something how ENS works from Ethereum name services, but it's, let's say, integrated at the chain level. It's much more scalable because of this. And then it makes people safe. One of the things about, like, when using it on MultiversX or when using it only on sovereign chains, is that you have double verification, meaning that if the HeroTag and the public key does not match, then the transaction is reverted. The same as when you do SEPA transfers on the banks. So in case of transferring on the bank, if the name and the address is different, then the transaction doesn't go, it gets reverted by your bank. And we implemented the same at the protocol level.
Which is another huge security feature. We've seen a lot of money lost just in the past couple of weeks from people sending money to the wrong address, or even accidentally to a burn address, or whatever it may be.
That's actually like another type of attack.
Poisoning attack, is that what they?
Yeah, the poisoning attack. And then you will go, you'll see the same address you sent 1 day ago. We don't know actually at the hour. You just click a copy and then done. and then your money is gone to the wrong address.
Yeah. And with HeroTags, that's kind of taken out of the picture because I send it to your nickname and not to an address. And it's much more secure that way. And all these different cryptos all under your one HeroTag, which is chain abstraction. That's how you make it very seamless and simple for the user. And all these are going to be incorporated into the sovereign chains as well, I imagine. So it's all seamless across all of these chains.
Yes, that's definitely true. So
Awesome.
even in sovereign chains, you will be able to have the hero tags, and then you will have the in case of sovereign chains, the other fun thing is that users, especially from MultiversX, they will see like one wallet and interact with everything as seamlessly as they want. And under that one wallet, they will see, as you have seen in the demo, you will see the cross-chain operations with the tick on the Explorer. And then you will see the different type of assets, whether those are from sovereign chain X or sovereign chain Y or from the main chain. All this information will be available for all the users.
Yeah. And xPortal. If anyone hasn't used xPortal yet, you just have to download it. I was making a list of all the wallets I've used recently, and it's over 40 wallets, and none of them even come close to comparing to xPortal. And just design, functionality, and simple to use, everything about it. It's an amazing wallet, and the security too. We didn't even go over Guardians at all, which is your on-chain 2FA, which provides another level of security.
And you are from the US, and you can still use one of the big features, the debit card.
Yeah, and I saw
it
just
got integrated into Android, Google Pay, and is going to be implemented for Apple Pay as well. It works for friends and family already, but only under the European Union, because this is the jurisdiction we are mostly developing on in these terms of debit cards.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I'm not holding my breath for anytime soon. I know a lot of that's not under your control. It's regulations and country restrictions, but at some point, having the card and the IBAN all in the wallet, it truly is the super app, the one app for everything, which is impressive.
I think it might change because of how the politics have changed in the US.
Yeah, they're changing quickly too. It's becoming an election topic.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get deleted after the elections.
Yeah, same here. But you never know. It's hard to take some of these politicians at their word, but hopefully they stick to what they're saying, and they're still going to be pro crypto after it all is said and done. But this has been a great chat for sure. There's so much that you and the team are doing over at MultiversX that it just seems like building the foundation for a chain that is truly scalable, decentralized, and secure to go well into the future. When you add in the sharding that could take it to hundreds of thousands or millions of TPS, since it's adaptively sharded, and then the security that comes with the ESDT and the Guardian, the chain abstraction with the hero tags, passkeys, xAlias, all the pieces are coming into place. And you guys are still building. You've got some big upgrades coming in the next couple months, I believe. And then next year with you're projecting parallel processing and bringing the block size down to 1 second. And you guys are already researching going even beyond that. So it seems like it's truly the kind of the ultimate infrastructure to build on and grow with.
Yeah, I believe this. And I think that developers should come and create more awesome apps because it's possible. And I would say, taking from others, that it's only possible on MultiversX. But I think that's actually true.
Yeah. And you guys have the $1 million grant program going on right now for the sovereign chains. So
yeah, and it starts with $50,000 for every integration or resolving the native cross-chain operation module for the different other major L1s. That's for the start. And after that, when the those builders, when they want to launch their sovereign chain, they will get other type of funding as well. They would be able to tap into the gravity restaking layer. We haven't spoken at all about that at the demo. It's not forgotten, but the sovereign chain as the technical spec was so big that we didn't want to dilute it with another huge thing, I think. As Trump says, huge.
And it is huge too. It lowers the barrier of adoption to almost nothing compared to a lot of the other options across the space.
Yeah, I believe so. So that would be amazing. I have some new things coming maybe for gravity layer restaking as well, but
Of course you do.
but that's not yet public. But it will come. That's another big step forward, I think, for making it easier to launch and making it more secure to launch new chains. And it's an opt-in feature, so we don't oblige anyone to do it, but it offers so many great properties that I think that people should just tap into it. And we'll see that as well as a separate topic. And also, we are here speaking a lot about like how it connects to Ethereum, Bitcoin, and everything. But sovereign chains are actually an SDK which can get into every industry and to all kinds of institutions as well. There are multiple public institutions looking into the blockchain world, as blockchain have some great primitives, and I think that sovereign chain puts all the primitives together into a nice package, and then it can be adopted by everyone out there.
Awesome. Yeah, exciting things coming up and going on. Definitely looking forward to following it more and seeing what else you have in store, like you mentioned with the gravity restaking. And there's always stuff going on. Congrats for all the success you guys have had so far. It's very impressive, everything you guys have built, and the foundation is there to create something just limitless at this point.
Oh, thank you very much. And we are here for the long term to build more and more.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to following it as it all continues.